Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. I am your host, Professor Sides. For the latest updates and information, you can find me on Twitter at Professor Sides. Jake is on traveling tonight, so it's just me. I'm going to run through and do the same sort of thing. He did highlight some of my favorite plays from the model that I've built and tell you why I think they are going to win, just like he does. Maybe a little bit less in depth, might be a little bit quicker of an episode because my points are going to be short and sweet. Hope you like it. And then Jake will be back with us for Monday's episode. Here, we're talking about games scheduled to be played on Saturday, November 19th, 2022. In case you're new here, check out the webpage on the banner. It's www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/new for a primer. Otherwise, the goals for this episode are to share key information about these games, give you some things to think on, explain why certain plays are being made. I never recommend blindly tailing or fading any pick, but rather to hear the justifications and thought processes to make sure you're fully on board with me or against me before investing your hard-earned money. Remember that Sideline has graded plays on every single game, but as always, take what you like and leave the rest. If you have questions about any of these games or others, best place to get them answered by me or my friend Jake is on Discord. That can be accessed through Patreon. Link in the show description. As always, remember there are no locks and gambling. So what Sideline provides are loves, likes, and leans. That is A, B, and C grades. Indicate its confidence level with respect to scaling wagers. However, please understand that good and bad variance will occur. So as much as we'd like to say we'll be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Like I said, be a little shorter and sweeter. So we're just going to get to it here. But before we do, some reminders, please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free. And if you turn on notifications, you won't miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or college football content that this channel provides. I've already mentioned the Patreon. Check it out if you haven't yet. Lots of great benefits to be found there. Membership starts at just $3 per month. It's www.patreon.com/pickswiththeprofessor. But even if you don't check out the benefits that I'm offering over there, I'm still thrilled that you're watching here with us. All lines courtesy of BetOnline. Set up in the show description and current as of the time of this recording on Friday night. Again, one of those benefits on Patreon. Right when this gets finished recording, upload it there. Otherwise, you're seeing this on YouTube the next morning. So lines current. Who knows how they'll move throughout the first couple of weeks. We've seen some pretty big line movements. I think that'll die down a little bit as the season goes along, just because there's a little bit more information out there. There's a little bit less bouncing around. So that'll calm down a little bit, but there's still going to be a lot of line movements here. There's just too many games for it not to be. But with that said, I'm going to dive right into my A-plus play of the day. I got a lot of A-grade plays from the model. My favorite, though, 2 p.m., Middle Tennessee State at Missouri State. This is a classic situation that if you're with me on the play of the day over on Patreon, again, $3 a month, you've heard me talk about this. I love a spot where I can get the home team laying a really short number where I think they're the better team and I'm laying a short number, or I can get a situation where it's like a pick 'em and I think they're dead even. Because I feel like that couple points really matters here, close to zero. And so this is that exact spot. So I don't have the X's and O's breakdowns on these two teams other than to say the A plays mostly rolling, killed it again on Friday, at least as of the time of this recording. I don't think there's enough time left in the day for that to go too far awry. This is one that the model says should be 5.2. I locked it in and posted to Patreon at -2. It's at currently -3 right now, and I'm still comfortable playing it at that number. One of the reasons I want to highlight it on here is -3. I still think it's a go for this play. -3 implies that Missouri State is maybe a little bit better or about the same. I'm giving, for a lot of these teams, home court only about 2 points. Some systems will still give 3. So, I locked it at 2, now it's at 3, 2 to 3. We're saying the two teams are even. And that's not what the model says. The model says that Missouri State is the better team. So I love laying a short number like this. They win more times than not, and it's unlikely to win by a close number. Given that the way teams play for overtime in these situations, we're not too likely to have a 1-point win, maybe a 2-point win. So, of course, locking at 2 is better, but I still think 3 is a perfectly fine number. So, the A-plus play of the day for me, 2 p.m. Central, Missouri State -2 hosting Middle Tennessee State. A lot of B plays again today. My best B side, also at 2 p.m. Central, Evansville at SMU. This is one that I locked in as a B grade play at Evansville +13. It's up to +13.5 now. And this is what I'm always saying. The number moves towards the model about 3 out of 4 times. The other 1 out of 4, it goes the other direction, or maybe When I 8, it goes the other direction. When I 8, it doesn't move at all. That's pretty rare with college basketball. So it is pretty much 1 out of 4. It will go the other direction. That's going to happen from time to time where people are just going to disagree with the model. And that's fine. We don't take anything from it. We just kind of, unless it's injury, if it's injury related, and there's been a lot of those here this year where it's been last minute out of the blue. Somebody didn't play. We didn't, see it coming whatsoever. And so in that situation, we take note, but otherwise it's a situation where I'm not really concerned if the number goes against me. Half of all line moves are wrong, right? Y'all probably heard me talking about this before. A lot of line moves are right, a lot of line moves are wrong. So I'm not really worried about it. This one's got a half point the other direction. And at 13.5, Evansville would actually be an A grade play. So it's listed as a B grade play on the sheet. That's why it's my best B side, because it was already a B plus side at plus 13.5. It's like an A minus side. So I love grabbing the 13.5 with Evansville at SMU. Sideline says this should be 11. SMU's the better team and they're at home. Absolutely. But Evansville can hang in there in this game. The pace isn't projected to be very fast at all. The books hung a total of 137. And so anytime you have a game that we're not expecting to get up into the 140s, at least frequently, it's easier for the underdog to hang around. Now, if this game had a total of 160, I'd be a little bit more concerned. If this is SMU's football team, I'd be a little bit more concerned about a big number like that, thinking, who the heck knows how this game's going to play with all the runaway scoring? But that's not exactly what we're expecting here to see. Evansville's going to want to slow this down, get into an ugly game. I think they can hang in there, lose this by about 8 or 10. So I love grabbing the 13.5 with Evansville. That is officially my best B side. Now we're going to shake and bake without Jake. Jake struggled with these, and we've talked about this a lot with him on these parlays, that they're really hard to hit, and you're going to go through lots of cold streaks. That's why I tend to not recommend parlays at all. You'll probably hear me talk about that in general. I'll give my quick spiel here real quick if you haven't heard it with parlays. I always recommend not putting the same team in multiple parlays. I always recommend keeping the number of teams low. And I always recommend, hey, if you don't like the play by itself, don't put it in parlay. I hear people say all the time, they'll say, do you think this side's a good play? And I'll say, no, I don't think it makes sense with the odds. I don't think they win a big enough time for that to be profitable. They'll say, well, does it make sense in a parlay? Same answer. If you like it by itself, go in a parlay. If you're liking a parlay, you should be comfortable playing by itself. The only reason you wouldn't is because you think you're getting some positive correlation, or because it's a bankroll management thing where you don't want to have 100 plays out there or something like that. But we're still going to try to play only things we like. There's a pair here that I like in Coppin State at Marshall, 6 p.m. Central. Hopefully I can get Jake off the schneid with these and we can get this segment rolling here, because sometimes with these, little 2-team parlays, they can get rolling, right? I think we got a good shot in this one. I'm going to grab the 12.5 points with Coppin State. Locked it in as an A grade earlier at 13.5. I still think 12.5 is fine. And I'm going to go over 160.5. These two teams like to play fast. Going to be a lot of points in this one. The model says about 160, but the model's not built to project at the very top and the very bottoms. It's going to struggle a little bit there. It's not going to be completely way off necessarily, but it's going to have a harder time. If a game really should be like 110, it's never going to project 110. It's only going to project about 115. It's going to have a hard time getting there. And the same thing going up. If it really should be 165, 170, it's going to kind of tap out at in the low 160s. It's going to have a hard time because those are outliers. And that's not what a model is built to do. A model is built to be accurate for the majority of things, not the one-off weird cases, right? So the fact that the model says 160 and the total is 160.5, I think we should be going over this. This is going to be a high-scoring game, lots of points. And I know I just said I like grabbing the points with Evansville because I think it'll be lower scoring. They can hang in there. I'm not as concerned here because I think Coppin State can hang in this game. When you look at what they've done this year, I think they're a little bit better than they let on. Their bad loss was to Charlotte, and I talked about this. I think we've seen spurts of what Charlotte can do here in this tournament this weekend. I think it's a pretty solid basketball team. I think this is more about Charlotte than Coppin State. The rest of what I've seen from Coppin State, they look half decent. I'm not sure they can go on the road and win this game, but I think they can hang in there, give Marshall all they want. It's going to be an up and down game with lots of points. And if this game finishes something like, 91-80, I would not be surprised whatsoever. So I'm going to go Coppin State plus 12.5 and over 160.5 as my same game parlay, shake and bake without Jake. See if we can get us off the schneid here. I'm going to go back to some totals here as well. I'm going to go with getting high with the professor. 2 p.m. Central, Eastern Michigan. I'm like the cool teacher, I guess. I don't know. 2 p.m. Central, Eastern Michigan and Oakland. I'm going to go over 156.5. It's kind of the same thing. Lather and repeat. I just said sideline projects 156.5 or 156.3, excuse me. So basically projects the same thing. But the model has massively missed with these two teams with regards to how many points they've had. I mean, these two teams just play with their pants on fire, just up and down the court. It should be a wild, fun basketball game. I don't know if this is on ESPN Plus. You're probably watching a college football. I will be. But this could be a fun one just to keep up. The spread in this one's about 4.5. So we're talking about it should be a competitive game, and I just expect a ton of points. I think this one can easily get into the 160s. So I'm going to go over this Eastern Michigan and Oakland, just mainly off the fact that the projections for these teams just cannot keep up with how many points they're scoring and how many points they're allowing. It's both a combination of pace, combination of solid offense, and a combination of just not expending a lot of energy on defense, not good defensive schemes. I'm not really sure, but there's not a lot of defense happening when these teams play. There is a lot of offense, though. So I'm going to go over 156.5 in Eastern Michigan at Oakland. And to flip that script on the how low can you go, I've got an underplay that I like here. 6 p.m. Central, Princeton at Marist. And I'm highlighting this for you too, just as an FYI. I do have an A-grade play on Marist +7. I think Marist can hang in there in this game at home. Not a lot of good defense in this game, but not a lot of good offense either. Princeton's got a above-average offense, but on the road, I expect them to struggle a little bit more than if this game was at home. Marist offense isn't that good. I expect this to be kind of an uglier type game. Again, not because it's great defense, but just because not great offense. But neither one of these teams really wants to push the pace. They're both in the bottom half on pace. And I mentioned this before, there's kind of a synergistic effect. We see it like with service academies in football when they're running the triple option and things are getting crazy like that. You know, a team going slow, then the other team goes slow, and then they go slower, and it's just like slow begets slow, right? And the same thing happens with speed, right? One team gets out there in football, specifically, one gets out there to score, the other one scores. It just kind of can sometimes build off each other. You get these runaway games. I think SMU Houston from a couple of weeks ago. And the same thing happens in basketball, right? There's that synergistic effect of if neither team's wanting to push the pace, it can just kind of grind to a halt, kind of put you to sleep. If both teams are pushing the pace, going fast, it could just get out of hand. And I think we're going to see a couple of games already highlighted, go a little bit faster, push the pace, that sort of thing. This one's, I don't really see that happening based off what we've seen, what we project from these teams with regards to a pace standpoint, number of possessions of this game. I think there's going to be fewer possessions than the experts think. So I'm going to go under in this one. The number just locked in is 144.5. Sideline says should be 138.5. Just does not think that this is going to be getting into the mid 140s, maybe up to 140, but not to the mid 140s. So that's my how low can you go? And again, just as a shameless plug here, an A-grade play on Marist +7, like grabbing those points. I think those are correlated too. This has been a good spot for a parlay if that's something you're interested in here, parlaying the under with Marist, because those kind of play into each other. And this game grinds to a halt, and it's one of those that one of these teams is, up, a point with a minute and a half to go. Their team's going to really look for a good possession. Maybe they don't, and they don't score, right? Good defensive possession. The other team gets down one or whatever, and then, they get stopped, but they're going to look for really good possession. So it's one of those where it could just kind of grind down to the end, depending on how close it is. We got to worry about overtime, of course, on these unders, but I think Marist can hang in there. And I think this goes under 144.5 is my official pick on that one. A lot of good college football, of course, on your Saturday, but two good college basketball games to keep an eye on. Both of them on a neutral site tournament. The first one's a little bit earlier in the day, right before this. So I'm going to highlight the one a little bit later in case you're watching this later in the day. 3 p.m. Central, Providence and Miami. I'm also highlighting this because I like to play in this one better. The other one, the numbers gotten out a little bit out of hand. It's a little bit less exciting than this one. This is one that's worth watching. If you're going to pick one basketball game to watch in the midst of all the college football, this one probably your best bet with regards to good play, gambling-wise, and good quality basketball. Providence and Miami, again, 3 p.m. Central. That's what it's scheduled. It might be a little more delayed from that just because, again, it's a neutral site game and a little tournament playing after another one. Sideline says this should be Miami -4.2. So I'm laying the 2.5 with Miami. I just think Miami's a better team than Providence. I'm just not buying into this Providence team yet. Both these teams are 3-0. I just think that Miami's a team that we faded in a couple spots already this year when the number got too far out in front of them. We were successful with that. And now I just think it's time to go the other direction. I think that they can win this game. And again, the probability they win by 1 or 2 isn't extremely high, especially 1 is not extremely high. Doesn't mean I recommend buying down the point. It's probably not worth the investment. I would just lay whatever your book has. If you can shop around and get a 2, that's even better, because 1-point wins just don't happen that often in college basketball. But 2 does occasionally happen, but I still think at -2.5, it's a safe play. I think Miami's going to be up about 5 or so towards the end of this game. And then it's just hope nothing stupid happens with fouls and late game shenanigans. Miami can just hold on and win by 4 or 7, something like that. So I'm going Miami -2.5. It's a B grade play officially for the model. And that's my must-see TV play of the day. And one last one for you here, overtime. Don't have much to say about this one. I think it's pretty short and sweet. 4 p.m. Northeastern and Syracuse. I still don't believe in the Syracuse team. I still don't think the line's caught up to them. Louisville, you can at least make some cases of they're playing decent teams and they keep losing by 1. And I don't know what to make of that. I still think, the number's kind of catching up. It's kind of a weird scenario. They're going to be in for a long year, but also it's a little bit harder to judge. This Syracuse team, I just don't think is that good with regards to laying these big numbers. I just don't think they've got the scoring, the defense, the depth, whatever it is to really dominate some of these teams. This game means a whole lot more to Northeastern than it does to Syracuse. I'm going to grab the 15 points with Northeastern. Again, I locked this in earlier at 16.5. It's an A grade play. It's down to 15 now. That's the official number I'm grading at for the show purposes at 15. And 15 is still an A grade. I still think it's way too many points. I think Syracuse wins this game, but I think they win it by 8, 10, something like that. I just don't see them running away. They've struggled to do that here recently, and I don't really see why this one's any different. Assuming this game happens, because I know there's snow up in that area. I honestly have no idea. I'm not a weatherman. I have no idea how much we've all heard about the Buffalo, so I don't know how much that's getting into Syracuse. So it's kind of the asterisk. If this game happens, I think that Northeastern can hang in there. I don't really see a huge home court advantage on this one. There's really no reason to get out in the cold and watch this game. I mean, a bunch of people don't even realize it's basketball season yet, right? Football team's still kind of like hanging in there at Syracuse. So, I mean, I just don't – I could be wrong. I absolutely could be wrong. I just don't think if it's cold on a Saturday afternoon, it doesn't seem like it's going to have quite the same home court advantage as that place can have in a conference game on a night game, that sort of thing. I just think there's potentially better environments that get more fired up and give Syracuse more of a home court edge than I think they're going to have in this one. Like I said, I see them being a nice, easy win, but I don't think they win by 20. And if you're going to lay a number like this, you got to think winning by 20 is really on the table. And that just seems hard to fathom here with what we've seen from Syracuse. I'm going to grab the 15 with Northeastern as my overtime pick. That's all I've got for you here. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can enjoy all the sports betting content provided on this channel. Dropped right to your feed. We'll be back again next week with more sports betting content, 3 more college football episodes, 6 more college basketball episodes. Throughout this weekend, college basketball, college football, NFL, NBA, NHL. There's so much happening right now. Best of luck in all of your betting endeavors. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.